right-hand side, we're seeing the direwolves do basically what Echo did earlier. So we're gonna get a nice little comparison. Bloodlust is going, huge pull, everything rounded up. Thick Shade standing at the ledge back there. I'm not sure if that's as safe as the blue marker, but we're gonna see in big how those Juggernauts fare. The dogs now also have gathered some extra heads.
Really cool. You can see Soda Master Zone or casting the Master Spell onto the players who are together. Not kept to line of sight here, because here if it goes through in Rasan, we don't line of sight. It's a magic effect. Soda standing line of sight, not getting cleared. Then casting the Master Spell, making sure the rest of the players don't have to go line of sight. Very, very cool by dogs, as they also have the middle pack snapped into this pool on top of a bunch of skyscrapers and raptors as well. So they're going to get a bunch of damage here, but also fully priority targeting this Rasan, as Teddles mentioned, with that comp just having so much prior damage. This is just such a nice pull by dogs. Also looked incredibly dangerous, but they really did pull it off. Raging and making this a lot more difficult. Yeah, direwolves now on Priestess on one side. Both these teams take completely different.
They are, and I'm so impressed with how the dogs are surviving this, right? You see all of these AoE pulls, you see the jumps, it's a lot of damage that's going out into the entire group, and somehow they're making it through it once again. Now, the one class I'm never worried about is the Warlock. They're just the tankiest out there. But everybody else seems to kind of be struggling a little bit. We're going to see the gateway come back, and now I assume they're also going to go to the left side and make head towards Alonza. Now, are they going big here? How big are they going with no healer in range? And it seems like the answer is yes, we're pulling everything. Even the Colossi at the top. This is a massive pull, no bloodlust, no healer. The dogs are in it to win it.
Breath of Eons available just yet. They still need to wait a couple of seconds for it to come back up, as all of their defenses are being used. This pull gets a lot more difficult later on with that raging. That's maybe why Breath of Eons also being held a little bit. You can even hold it for next pull, as we do have another thing to mention, by the way. Velo on that Evoker having the Oppressive Roar, right? Oppressive Roar, of course, being incredibly useful for raging, as if you get the extra talent, also remove raging on all of the mobs whenever you cast the Oppressive Roar. So exactly what Velo did. Did see Soda go down, unfortunately, and charge. And you see Shelly summoning that in, making sure he's got that magic dispel available for some of these casts that might or might not be from the augurs.
So the thing is, as soon as one of your ranges here dies, suddenly everybody else becomes more at risk to get jumped by a Juggernaut. So that Shelly kind of hiding behind the wall to make sure he can summon that in. It's really nice to make sure that everything goes on Dr. J. He's a mage. He can probably live, is the argument that's being made there. Cauterize is proc, but what else are you running it for? And the dogs have made it through with just one death onto Alonza as well. But we're seeing a reverse in real time as the Wolves have made it down to Razan and are also, well, have been playing some trash on top of that. They finished with it. It's now only Razan that they need to cheer through. As the left-hand side, we're seeing those ads slowly but surely drop lower and lower, and the dogs making headway on Alonza. This is going to be a very close match. If the first two maps didn't tell you that already, these teams are super, super close in performance, and the fact that we are seeing this one is really exciting to me. We're adding a little bit of extra trash here on the side of the Wolves, as Alonza is slowly but surely ending her own HP pool with these players.
Mention about not running healers, that's usually you don't have a match, right? But with the comp they're running, they actually have two magic spells. They have the Invisible from the Warlock, and they also have the Master spell. So this boss, for example, does put Molten Gold magic debuff on players, but without a healer and without a hard spell, not with this comp. They can run full Night Elves, or you have to run more operations to get rid of those debuffs. Dr. J though still running the dwarf because he does have invisibility that is kind of similar to Shadow Melt. The other players can stick to that Shadow Melt, which is very useful for something like dropping Rasan or Fixate, even if it's not on you. So yeah, very nicely done by Doc so far. I'm very impressed by this no healer run here.
Soul Echoes.
Yeah, making a little bit of slow pull there to round up the Sky Screamers as they are running towards that big pole. Now, if you remember the first Ataldazar we did see today, there is always a little bit of risk involved with all of these interrupts that you have to get out there onto the Sky Screamers, especially if they're still far away from the group. You know, sometimes they're close enough, but you maybe don't have them in range yet, or you're not trekking that specific one that's out there. So the dogs have a little bit of risk on their hands, but the same is true for the wolves, where it actually happened. A couple of deaths coming in on Chaz and Jack. They're using their battle res to get the Shadow back up with them. 40 dropping lower and lower as well. Can he survive here? Warlock powers activated. Dark Pact is now running as well. Should be safe.
Invaders have breached
and
the
this is one of those difficult pulls if you run a full range combo. You see a fear coming through as Chunky did manage to survive, which is the most important thing here, as Raging is on all of these mobs as well. Yeah, they pulled the middle pack here with some Sky Screamers and the Stalker and Witch Doctor pack. Very dangerous. This is the first team on Dialog's side that committed to this pool rather than the Sun. All of the other teams that are pulled the middle pack onto the Sun. Very interesting. I need to talk. Yeah, Jack coming down. We do see a Shadow Melt rest coming through by Thick Shake. So using that out of combat rest with the Shadow Melt to drop combat very nicely down by Direwolves. Waste time afterwards.
Non-breaking strike.
Yeah, unfortunately having some issues here, and again, having that full range of fewer interrupts, very dangerous when you have a bunch of Witch Doctors that cast Venom Blast, and on top of that you have to interrupt the Sky Screamer as well.
Bone-breaking strike. Arcane Blitz.
I really don't love that they pulled Arcane Blitz onto this one.
Knife
This is exactly what we saw there.
Blitz.
You need that prior damage, and even if you
Bone-breaking
have
strike.
you're going to spend a little bit of extra time
Arrow
just
BRH.
dealing with the
Arcane
sheer
Blitz.
people that these middle Triceratopsies have. They're just
Arcane
big chunky
Blitz.
boys, so you're going to be there for a little while. Pulling
Arcane
them
Blitz.
towards on makes more sense in terms of
Bone-breaking
damage
strike.
reduction overall, but maybe it was too risky for the wolves. We're going to see if maybe they adapt throughout this weekend. The dogs, though, ahead on Volcal, nearly
Bone-breaking
finished
strike.
with count.
Arrow
Both
BRH.
teams are pretty close there. I think if they can get some Sky Screamers on to the very last boss, they should both be fine. But of course, in the overall boss progression, the dogs are running away with this one. 30%
Bone-breaking
totems
strike.
have been finished like a minute ago, and they're getting closer and closer to the end of this boss fight, making way towards that final boss. Now, you said it, I
Strike.
believe, in the very first matchup. The last boss in the Ataldazar, Yasma, she can be a little bit of a menace and throw a wreck into plan. So we'll see if it's really going the way for the dogs, but right now they're firmly in the lead.
Yeah, and
Nice
this
dance.
Volcal, I believe, is one of the most dangerous bosses in this dungeon without a healer. They did manage to
Arrow
fight
BRH.
nicely. Because in the last phase and in the first phase, there's a lot of ticking damage going on with that debuff and also just the general aura.
Knife down.
Has managed to survive it so well, considering that they don't really
Bone-breaking strike.
and Auguroker is not necessarily a spec for someone killing that much.
I
You'd rather
require
have a lot
a talk.
of engagement. But if there's a lot of incoming
Arcane
damage,
Blitz.
like this kind of rot damage, then that mitigation might not actually be enough. And you saw that a bunch of off-killing has been
Arcane
done.
Blitz.
I saw that at Shadow Priest as well.
Arrow
and everyone
BRH.
had to make sure they're using
Knife dance.
this perfectly.
Arcane Blitz.
She did, and now they are
Arcane
on Yasma.
Blitz.
Again, a boss that has
Arrow
arcane
BRH.
damage. But it's more bursty damage once in a while rather than ticking damage. It's a lot
Arcane
better for
Blitz.
them to deal with because then they can just
Arcane
keep the
Blitz.
defensives like all the time. Just talking about
I do not have a
but
talk.
also fully back up afterwards. The only thing the candidate is with them racking pain to save the player gets started to move their hands.
Lamite getting feared there from the Sky Screamers. Not ideal, but they did recover what was happening. And like you said, I think the racking pain on this fight here is the one thing that they really need to look out for. If it
Arrow
goes
BRH.
onto the same player multiple times, it could be a little bit troublesome if you don't have a defensive run right now. So the
Arrow
Arrow
BRH.
straight to Shell and no problem at all. You can now see them deploy the pings to say this is where we're placing the next soul friends. They're coming out right now. Dogs on their
Knife
way
down.
to the victory lap. Sky Screamers are still in fight.
Arrow
There's
BRH
Mom,
strike.
you want to make your life just a little bit easier, but the racking pain on top of the already lower players. Dr. J dropping really, really low here, can recover, but it's still ticking for a second longer, is able to lift the red.
Right, Bloodlust coming up in 18 seconds for Dogs. And we do have a quick comparison between Dogs here and Echo. Echo cleared this dungeon earlier they won against some seriousness, and they had an 11:04 run. So Dogs actually looking like they're gonna be faster than Echo. Echo did have that reset on Rastan, of course, but yeah, Dogs having such a nice run as their Bloodlust is being popped now with the last set of offensive cooldowns
Breaking strike.
they're
Arrow
certainly
barrage.
gonna be beating Echo and having the best run of today in that Ataldasar. Very clean run by Dogs, and they're winning against Direwolves here, 2-1.
That is incredible. You know, we wondered if we were going to see it. Were we going to see more 4 DPS compositions come in? And I didn't think we'd see it in this dungeon, but we did. Dogs take the 2-1 victory, and Tettles, that was pretty impressive. I mean, there were so many moments in that dungeon where I was like, okay, somebody's definitely dying here. And then they didn't. They found a way to just kind of keep everybody alive nearly all of the time. Enough to win anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Dogs looked really good, and the ability to be able to 4 DPS this key, it was pretty fast. I do have questions about, like, is their route really the best? But I think that the way that they use Bloodlust means that their route works for them. So the alternative is like what Direwolves is doing on screen right here, where their first pull is all of that trash, and you lust that. Where for Dogs, they need to kind of lust this mid pack because it does too much damage to the individual players. Plus, this is like a lot of sorrows for a group without a healer. And so they've determined that this is their best first pull and their best lust. The downside is that the travel time from this team is going to be higher than other teams typically whenever they're just like doing it. Whereas like the rest of the teams are going to be like running in more or less like a straight fashion. They're going to have an attack. Now this is kind of the part that was kind of interesting. The rest of the group went off to the side to grab two side teams. Lamite melded off some trash mobs and then pulled some swords into the attack. This pull is very, very scary. We've seen a couple of fears actually go off on these trash mobs. A lot of it comes down to the fact that the Witch Doctors have required casts, otherwise you get Hex, and then the Sky Screamers also have required casts. And that's why whenever you see groups that play with a healer, it's pretty rare to see a Resto group on live on interrupt because they believe that they have to give up their entire life to be able to play kick. However, it makes sense in the MDI because we were doing pulls like this. Now people are getting hexed and a fear goes off, and that's kind of why the Direwolves. Where for Dogs, with their 4 DPS composition, they're just going to have a higher DPS with that Evoker being able to aug up 3 DPS in a 5-man dungeon with close sludge mates. Their damage should be pretty high. One of the things I was actually looking at whenever the map was running, I thought they were going to be playing Blue Social Mining Embellishment, which is the mastery above 90% HP. As it turns out, I was completely wrong about that. They're playing the Allied to Victory Bracers and the Haste on damaging the hunt. You cannot escape! I was a bit concerned about their uptime on Blue Social Mining, and it makes sense that they're not playing it.
Yeah, clearly a well-executed quality plan. So the question I have is, are we going to see more teams? You cannot escape! Of course, the other thing is that your Direwolves are low rack. They're not out yet, and this was such a close match too. They are going to be a threat. You cannot escape!
Dark Rush.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing I'm taking away from this is that you have a lot of very exciting matchups coming just due to how close this stuff is for this. I'm excited to see how many other teams are really preparing to go through.
I was about to say the exact same thing. I think that the no healer thing is very interesting. I don't know, it's like I thought that in the time trial, seeing the no healer runs, I was like, oh, I'm sure this is just a time trial thing, you know? I don't think they're gonna be pulling this out in a tournament. And then the second series, we already see no healer dungeons twice. So this is very interesting moving forward. I wonder if any of the other teams also prepared it as much as Dogs did, or if Dogs is like an outlier here. What do you think, Tettles?
So, my question is this a Dog strategy, or is this a strategy that other teams prepare? Because whenever we saw Echo, we saw them in their first 2 maps, like, obviously, sample size, but they played with and they played with DPS and a healer. Does this open up Dog to have a more feast or famine style of play where they can actually upset like a lot of teams by being able to like spawn in and DPS and have a bit more damage? But if they make a mistake, they kind of lose immediately. I don't know. I require a target. Like the teams that I talked to, like anybody was
Drink
actually
ancient potion.
But,
Drink ancient potion.
hey,
Indigestion.
I'm really interested in seeing if it's something that like is going to continue through the weekend.
I mean, I think that's kind of the question of all, right? It's like, is it, sure you can do it, but is it good enough to warrant
Indigestion.
doing those things, right? Is it something where it's like that extra damage? Is it going to get you that much faster at the time versus the amount of risk that you're going to take on by not running?
I mean, we had some pre-MDI meetings just like as casters, and we were kind of talking about some of the stuff that we might see, and no healer was brought up. I don't think anybody really thought it was doable in Everbloom, but dogs did it in Everbloom, and so that was. It really calls into question like what other dungeons is it going to be doable in?
Yeah. Well, for now, we'll have to wait and see what they pull out in their match against Echo later on. But our next match is going to be Last Hope taking on Levels. Move down to the second half of our group for the day, and that's another two extremely strong. Last Hope ended up being second in the TGP last season. It's a very different type of dungeon running than we see in MDI, but we know this is a group of very good players. And can they bring that against a team like Levels and also historically
Fell Frenzy. Fell Frenzy.
Oh, good break. Welcome back to our third match of the day here on the Mythic Dungeon.
Fell Frenzy.
Where Last Hope versus Levels.
Fell Frenzy.
I do not have a task.
Fell Frenzy. Sick Bats. Fell Frenzy. Fell Frenzy. Sick Bats. Fell Frenzy. Fell Frenzy. Fell Frenzy. Fell Frenzy. Fell Frenzy.
I will paint this keep with your blood.
Fell Frenzy.
Don't bother running, flee. Out with the refuse.
Earth-shaking stomp.
Fall beneath me. Gotcha.
Earth-shaking stomp.
Gotcha.
Earth-shaking stomp.
Don't bother running, flee. Gotcha.
Earth-shaking stomp.
Gotcha.
Earth-shaking stomp.
Gotcha.
Earth-shaking stomp. Faithful gaze.
Hold them off. You must prepare.
Raven's dive.
Kurtalos, they come for you. They do. Together we shall defeat them, the Totems.
Raven's dive. 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 Raven's
Welcome
dive.
back to the Mythic Dungeon International. One more time, I'm
Raven's
Joey, your host,
dive.
along with Makes Tettles, and welcoming Dratanos to the broadcast, who's entered his War Within cinematic Anduin Rin phase, apparently,
Raven's
but feeling more positive overall,
Raven's
right?
dive.
How you doing, Dratanos?
Pretty
Raven's
good.
dive.
Some pretty good matches that we ran earlier today. Looking
Raven's
forward to these next ones, though, as we've got some pretty close
Raven's
teams
dive.
On our overall scorecard, right, on our seeding. So should be some good ones.
Yeah, I'm curious about
Raven's
this
dive.
because, like, seeding-wise, Levels and Last Hope is a bit apart, right? You've got Last Hope coming in number 4, you've got Levels coming in at number 13, but I feel like the strength of the players on these teams is not reflected maybe super accurately in the seeding for this event.
You shall
I think
never
these
have
teams are
our
going to
world.
be pretty tight in terms of how this plays out.
I shall
What do you think?
cleave you in twain.
Yeah, I think so too. Just skipping a line there.
Dark
Turn
flash,
away.
whirling blade.
Yeah, I first recognized Levels as a team that actually played Frosty on Walpen, who's a DK main. That's how I know him. And I was very excited by them. Now they have a little bit of a roster change coming into this one. Walpen going to tank. Nobo
Turn away.
yes, we're all kind of like holding hands and hopping into different places. Very
Whirling
curious
blade.
on how that's going to play out.
Oh yeah. What I was gonna say about Last Hope is I feel like Last Hope is a team that has like a really high
Dark
market
flash.
So it's a team
away.
that we saw recently
Enough.
get second
I'm
place in the
tired of
TPP
this. Raven
in season
Crest.
2, and I think that they are a team that if they can actually kind of
10,000
get their
years
synergy right and
have
find the
not
strats that work for them,
died.
they should be able to do like some of the fastest games. This is a team that's helmed by Dorky, and that's a guy that like he comes up with some of the most innovative strats in our region, like in NA.
This is-
He comes up with like the best strats. We've seen him in MDIs before,
Illusion.
so if they can like really get together and
Shadow Bolt
this is a team that like
You must
honestly
defeat
should give
him.
Echo a run.
Respect these worthless mortals to defy the Legion.
Yeah, I
certainly
was
almost
speaking with
Souls
him.
of my
I
ancestors.
was speaking with him last
To
weekend, and
me,
he
aid our
Shadow
was
Bolt
thinking
Falling.
that their time trial times were not as representative of their strength as, you know, they actually are, right? Because
Dreadlord's
he
Guide.
thinks that they can actually be a lot faster in these runs on the live weekend, and that their time trial runs were kind of vanilla. They didn't have a lot of the really big tech stuff that other teams may have been running, and that they're planning to run here over this weekend potentially. So I don't know what they've got in store for us, but it looks like they're going to be banning out Ataldazar, while Levels are instead taking out Darkheart Thicket. Interesting.
That means we're going to see the Waycrest Manor the first time this weekend. So talking to teams, pretty much every single team I talked to said that they spent about 80% of this week practicing Waycrest Manor. Waycrest Manor took the lion's share of the practice time because it's on a 24, because it's on Fortified, and it's on Bolstered. I kind of expected a lot of teams to actually be looking to ban it out, but it is like a required map later on in the weekend a couple of times. And so with it being a required map, you probably have to practice at some point.
You shall
And so
never
maybe that's
have
why
our
it
world.
went through this early on.
May have been a game of chicken as well. Both teams may have assumed the other would ban Waycrest, and then they banned their
Whirling
second
blade.
ban, and then the Waycrest gets through as a result.
Or maybe they're trying to hide some tech. It is the first time the one broadcast those 2 dungeons. We saw already in the Ataldas are a lot of different tech coming out of the teams. Maybe saying like, okay, we're going to show that. We're going to force the Waycrest Manor and we'll see who comes out of it alive.
Yeah, the Waycrest Manor.
Hold on. What do you mean alive?
I would assume they're all going to live.
What do you mean?
Oh, the characters. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we hopefully
Run away!
But I'm wondering, too, I mean, like, obviously nobody usually talks about it, but in Waycrest Manor, there's a lot of very narrow corridors, and I feel like that is a dungeon in particular where that affix that gets kind of passed over a lot of times could end up being a little bit inconvenient to deal with. Now, maybe I'm just crazy on that, but I look at that, I'm like, oh, because I think about maneuvering through the narrow hallways and trying not to pull somebody on the pole. You know, how much do I really want to deal with it? That's a little bit annoying.
Shadow Bolt.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a dungeon where...
Defeat him!
Going in fall first.
I'm excited about Waycrest Manor. I don't care.
My ancestors!
Yeah, that one is definitely in our future, but first thing we
Shadow
need
Bolt
to get
falling.
through Fall, which I don't think we've seen yet. We've seen... Yeah, we haven't seen... Actually, we saw the Rise even get banned.
Dreadlord
Fall not played yet, so it'd be an exciting one.
I think Fall is most likely to be similar to how it's done on the because there's like
Yeah, there's not too much
so
opportunity to
much
do this
place.
differently. Ooh, alright, levels are busting out the Mistweaver Monk, while Last Hope are on what's turning out to be more of the tournament standard here of that Resto Druid. Both teams getting down to the
Shadow
first
Bolt
boss
falling.
and getting it pulled and popping the Lust. Pretty much to be expected here. This is as much trash as you can get in this
Stinging
area.
Swarm.
Basically, it's as much stuff as you can pull all at
Shadow
once,
Bolt
and
falling.
they are comfortable doing it. 22 tyrannical, spiteful, and incorporeal here, so nothing that really prevents you from pulling big like
Shadow
that.
Bolt falling.
I actually really like the Mistweaver.
Cloud of Hypnosis.
It's the highest HPS throughput healer that you can see, and it's especially the
Stinging
highest
Swarm.
HPS
Shadow
throughput
Bolt
healer
falling.
for MPI-sized pulls. Their spinning frame kick conversion to HPS is incredibly high. The downside of the Mistweaver Monk, though, is that they do
Shadow
just
Bolt falling.
a little bit less damage overall than like the Mistweaver. Like the Respirator, especially whenever they have like part of the wild up, they're going to be able to just kind of like pop off. And if
Shadow
you
Bolt
just
falling.
pull every single trash mob to the front area, and their Mistweaver Monk is doing about the same HPS
Cloud of
as the rest of
Hypnosis.
the Last Hope, which
Shadow Bolt falling.
they were pulling like a lot fewer mobs, and so that's going to be a lot
Dreadlord's
more
Cloud.
hard to damage. But look at this dude. Levels 36.67% enemy forces, where Last Hope only has 21%. The boss died about the same time.
So the problem is, it's hard to get a huge advantage in Fall for getting more count at the start of the dungeon, right? Like, you can skip one more pull at the end, maybe, but it's actually one of the dungeons where, like, a lot of times groups on live will skip at the start of the dungeon because it's kind of the easiest place to skip. That being
Stinging
said,
Swarm.
15% count for 5 seconds.
Shadow
Even
Bolt
if that's
falling.
true, you'd rather be on the 15% count side of that. That's got to be an early advantage here for Levels, who are coming into this game certainly the underdogs. They were the lower